I never thought I'd be someone who holds a grudge. I always believed family sticks together, no matter what. That's how I was brought up. But when I needed them most, my so-called family turned away without hesitation. It all began 3 years ago when my life collapsed overnight. One day, I was healthy, had a steady job, and was planning my future. The next, I was stuck in a hospital bed, staring at medical bills I couldn't afford. The doctor said I needed urgent care, and without insurance, I was drowning in debt before I knew what hit me. But I wasn't alone, right? I had family. My relatives were doing well. Some were even loaded. My uncle owned a thriving business. My cousin loved showing off her investment properties, and my parents, well, let's just say they never missed a chance to mention how cozy their retirement was. All right, I swallowed my pride and finally reached out. I wasn't begging for handouts. I made sure they knew. I just needed a small loan, something to keep me going till I bounced back. I even said I'd sign a contract, pay interest, whatever it took. I figured they'd get it. I thought they'd actually care. But nope, they hit me with the same excuse every time. We've got our own stuff to handle. Some straight up ghosted me. Others sent these half-hearted, brush-off replies. And a few had the nerve to preach at me about money management before saying they couldn't just waste cash. Waste cash. These are the same folks posting pics of their fancy trips, designer hauls, brand new rides, and home makeovers. Meanwhile, when I was barely scraping by for basic care, they treated me like some deadweight. I was crushed. But more than anything, I was pissed. Still, I handled it. I did what needed to be done. I took on extra work when my body could handle it. I battled the hospital over bills, and got through it without their help. It wasn't easy, but I made it. And over time, that anger I felt toward them didn't go away, it grew sharper. It had been over 2 years since my so-called family walked out on me. By then, I'd rebuilt my life from scratch. It was tough. There were nights I went to bed starving, days I thought I'd never pull through. But I kept pushing, working my ass off, taking any job that kept me above water. I taught myself new skills, landed remote gigs, and slowly crawled out of the financial hole they'd left me in. Every dollar I earned felt like a win, proof I'd survived without them. Then one day, I got a text from my cousin. She was one of the first people I'd contacted when I was struggling, the same cousin who'd sent me a 2-line text saying times were hard for everyone, while posting pics of her fancy trip to Greece. I stared at her name on my screen, feeling something sour in my throat. Curiosity won out. I opened the text. Hey, it's been ages. Hope you're good. Listen, I need a huge favor, and I know you're awesome with money. Can we chat? I nearly burst out laughing. A favor? From me? After all this time? I didn't answer right away. I just left the message there as I leaned back in my chair, thinking at first it was probably some small bother. Maybe she needed some help budgeting for her next shopping trip, but something about her tone felt off. There was a nervous edge to it, a hesitation she wouldn't normally show. I figured I'd do some digging. A quick social media search gave me all the answers. My cousin had made some terrible investments. She'd overextended herself, buying places she couldn't afford, and now that the market crashed, she was losing money fast. That alone was pretty satisfying. But then I spotted something else. My uncle, the one who'd built this crazy successful business, the one who'd lectured me about pulling myself up by my bootstraps, had filed for bankruptcy. I just sat there, staring at the screen, feeling this icy, slow smirk creep over me. Everything was crumbling for them. The same people who couldn't be bothered to lift a finger when I was drowning were now barely keeping their heads above water. And they had the audacity to ask me for help. I didn't reply to my cousin right away. I waited. I wanted to see how desperate they'd really get. Then 2 days later, my phone rang. It was my uncle. The guy who'd ghosted my calls when I was begging for help was now reaching out to me. I let it ring for a bit before finally picking up, keeping my voice calm. Hey, uncle, long time no see. There was a long silence on the other end, like he was scrambling for the right thing to say. Finally, he cleared his throat. Yeah, it has been. Look, I'll get straight to the point. We're kinda in a tight spot right now, and I was hoping you might be able to help us out. I almost felt like drawing it out, playing clueless, making him spell it out. But I already knew where this was going. Help out how? I asked, keeping my tone casual so he'd hesitate. Well, you've always been good with money. And I know you've been doing pretty well for yourself. We just need a little boost to get back on track. We like the same we that left me high and dry. I leaned back in my chair, feeling something cold and sharp sink into my chest. This was it. This was the moment I'd been dreaming about for years. And I wasn't gonna waste it. Oh, I'd love to help, I said, letting just a hint of amusement slip into my voice. But, I've got my own life to handle. Silence. Sweet, beautiful silence. I could hear him chewing on my words, could almost feel the second he realized I was tossing his own excuse right back at him. But I wasn't finished yet. Besides, I went on, I wouldn't want to waste good money. I heard his breath catch. That was the exact same line he'd fed me years ago when I was begging for help. He stumbled over his words, scrambling to bounce back. Listen, I get that things were tough before, but this time it's different. We're family. Oh, so now we're family? I cut in, my voice going icy. Funny, I don't recall feeling like family when I was stuck in the hospital, just trying to figure out how to make it through. Another silence. Then, at last, he mumbled, I get it now. I smirked to myself. Yeah, I bet you do. And with that, I ended the call. But this wasn't done yet. 'Cause the begging had only just started. Hanging up felt like finally winning a fight I'd been stuck in for years. But I knew the war wasn't over. Nope, this was just the start. 'Cause when folks like my family go down, they don't go quietly. They fight, they scratch, they plead, but only when they're out of options. And guess what? Suddenly I was their last resort. You see, my uncle wasn't lying. I was killing it, doing better than good. I'd spent 2 years hustling harder than ever before. After digging myself out of medical bills, I swore I'd never be that helpless again. I got hooked on learning all things money. Investing, passive income, starting a business. I dove in like my life was on the line. And honestly, it kinda was. It wasn't a walk in the park. I gave up sleep, friendships, any trace of a social life. While my so-called family kept showing off online, I was burning the midnight oil, juggling every side gig I could land. And then one day, it all worked out. I cracked the code and started my own business. One that blew up way faster than I ever expected. Those same skills I'd begged my family to teach me, I ended up learning on my own, and the money started rolling in, slow at first, but then it piled up. Before long, I wasn't just getting by. I was loaded. And my family. They took notice. They noticed when I stopped scraping by. When I began jetting off on trips. When I moved into a nicer spot, swapped out my car, and, oh, the irony, when I started flaunting my wins online. At first, they just lurked from afar. I could sense their curiosity through those awkward likes and half-baked comments. But then, one after another, they slid into my DMs. It began small, random texts acting like they cared, after years of radio silence. My parents hit me with a random, hope you're good, out of the blue. My cousin, the one who'd brushed me off with some lame excuse, suddenly wanted to catch up. And then, when their money problems got real, the messages turned downright needy. They weren't just checking in anymore. They needed something from me. And for the first time ever, they realized I had what they wanted. That's why my uncle called. That's why my cousin randomly messaged me. They'd spent their whole lives looking down on me, treating me like I was nothing. But now, I had something they couldn't brush off. And they actually thought I'd save them. Little did they know how much I'd changed. I wasn't that same person begging for their help years back. I wasn't some desperate relative they could blow off. Now, I held all the power. And I was gonna make damn sure they knew it. 'Cause next time they called, I already had that conversation planned out. When the phone rang again, I saw it coming. This time, it was Mom. Let me make one thing clear. My parents weren't broke. They weren't homeless. They weren't actually in trouble. But for the first time ever, they were facing the same money struggles I'd asked them to help me with years back. And just like that, all those times they said, we've got our own problems, didn't seem to matter now. I let the phone keep ringing. Once. Twice. 3 times. Then I finally answered. Hello. I said, keeping my voice steady. Cool. There was a silence. Then my mom's voice came through, dripping with fake sweetness. Honey. It's been forever. How's it going? She sounded like a total stranger. Like some woman who'd never left me to deal with things alone. Even though I knew damn well that's exactly what she'd done, I didn't reply immediately. I let the silence hang, just until it got awkward, then I asked, what do you need? I could hear her hesitate. That wasn't the reaction she'd anticipated. "Oh, sweetie, I just wanted to touch base. You know, see how my superstar son's getting along. I saw your photos. You look amazing. Seriously. We're all so impressed with you." I nearly snorted. Impressed? Proud? Where was all that pride when I was drowning in medical bills? Where was this concern back when I needed them most? But I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of knowing I cared. "I'm doing fine," I said flatly, "but you didn't call just to say that." "What's this about?" Another pause. Then, her voice got softer. More fragile. "Well, things haven't been easy lately. You know how the economy's been. Your dad's investments took a hit, and, well, you know how pricey everything is now. It's been kinda tight." I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. "So what?" There was a sharp breath, like she couldn't believe I was making her say it. "Well, I just figured maybe you could help us out a little." There it was, the moment I'd been waiting for. The same folks who'd turned their backs on me when I was at my lowest were now coming to me with their hands out, expecting me to solve their problems. I could have handed them the money. No sweat, I could have bailed them out with one quick wire transfer. And that's exactly what they were counting on, that I'd be too nice, too weak, too guilty to say no. But they had no clue how much I'd changed. I smiled and said, "No." Silence. Then, my mom let out this nervous laugh, like she thought she'd misheard me. "Sweetie, what do you mean, no?" I leaned in, gripping the phone tighter. "I mean no, Mom, I'm not helping you." The silence on the other end was crushing. "But we're family." That almost made me lose it. I clenched my jaw, forcing myself to keep it together. "Oh, so now we're family?" I said, my voice low but sharp. Where was that energy when I needed help? When I was drowning in medical bills, and y'all acted like I wasn't even here. "That was different," she shot back. "We were swamped. We had our own stuff going on." I cut her off. Dead silence followed. And right then, it hit me for the first time ever. They didn't feel bad about what went down. They weren't apologetic. They just couldn't stand that the tables had turned, that now I called the shots. And I sure wasn't about to let them walk all over me. I took a deep breath and told her, "I learned so much during my struggles, Mom. I found out who really had my back, and who didn't." Then I hung up before she could respond. As I set the phone down, I realized something else. I didn't feel bad at all. Not even a tiny bit. For the first time ever, I felt completely free. But I had no idea my family wasn't finished. They weren't about to accept no for an answer. What they pulled next showed how far they'd go. I should have seen it coming. I should have known saying no wouldn't work with folks like them. When privileged people lose their grip, they can't handle it. They don't bow out gracefully. Oh no, they double down. And that's precisely what my family did. It all began with texts. At first, they were from my mom. "I don't get why you're acting this way. We're family. Family's supposed to stick together. Mom, this isn't right. We helped bring you up. You wouldn't be here without us. Mom, just think it over, all right? Don't let anger mess with your heart." I brushed them off. Every last one. Then my uncle jumped in. "Heard you're too fancy for your own folks now. Uncle, money messes with people's heads. Just remember your roots." That one cracked me up. Where I'm from, the hell I had to go through. They had the nerve to act like they helped me succeed when they left me to rot. I didn't even bother replying. Then, the tone shifted. The messages got nasty. Mom texted, "I can't believe you're being this selfish. We're barely getting by and you're just sitting there." She texted again, "You're loaded now. It's just cash. You wouldn't even notice it." Cousin hit me with, "Seriously? After all that? You're gross." I could feel their rage through the screen, their desperation oozing from every word. Then the guilt-tripping texts from Mom started rolling in. "Dad's not doing too great. All this stress is really messing with his health. I hope you can live with yourself if something bad happens to him." That last one actually made me stop for a second. Not because I bought her story. Hell no, I know my dad. He was perfectly fine. But the fact that she'd stooped that low to play me, that was just sad. And it showed me one thing clear as day. They weren't just having a rough patch. They were going under. But nothing, and I mean nothing, could have gotten me ready for what went down next. 'Cause they quit with the texts altogether. And then they just started showing up. It all went down on some random quiet afternoon. I just got back from a meeting feeling pretty good about how things were going. Business was booming. I had some big deals in the works. And for the first time in years, I finally felt in control of my life. Then the doorbell rang. I checked my phone's security cam. And there they were, my mom, my dad, and my uncle, standing outside my place. They'd never been here before. They never even asked where I lived. But here they were. On my doorstep, I took a deep breath. Staring at the screen, I could tell by their faces. You could see their fake smiles and the stress in their eyes. They didn't come to chat. They came to trap me. And I wasn't having it. So, I pulled a move they never saw coming. I acted like they weren't there. I saw my mom hit the doorbell once more. Then she banged on the door. Then she began shouting my name. I noticed my dad folding his arms, obviously pissed. I spotted my uncle grabbing his phone, most likely to dial me. Another call I'd ignore. Finally, I shut off the camera. I let them stand there. Because if they taught me anything, it was that sometimes the best response is silence. But they weren't finished. Oh no, not yet. What they did next would show exactly how far they'd go. I made them wait half a minute. Then 10, then 15. I wondered how long they'd stick around before quitting. Before they figured out the son, the nephew, the family they'd thrown away like garbage wasn't going to cave just because they needed him now. But they stayed. Instead, my mom started banging on the door louder. "We know you're inside," she yelled. "Quit acting like a kid and talk to your family." I clenched my jaw. My family. That word meant nothing when they said it. But you know what? All right, if they were so desperate to talk. If they wanted their big moment, I'd give it to them. I took a deep breath, straightened my shoulders, and walked outside. The moment I opened the door, my mom's face twisted into fake relief. Like she wasn't about to start yelling seconds ago. Finally, she sighed. "Why were you ignoring us?" I crossed my arms. "Because I owe you nothing. And I thought if I ignored you long enough, you'd take the hint and go." Her mouth dropped open a little. Like she couldn't believe I'd actually say it while my dad scoffed. "Is that any way to speak to your parents?" I looked straight at him. "Same way you spoke to me when I begged for help, and you said you had your own life to handle." That shut him up, and then my uncle jumped in. He cleared his throat, obviously trying to smooth things over. "Listen, kid, we know it's been rough for you. But what's done is done. Right now, we're in a tight spot and, you think I care?" I cut him off, raising my brow. He just stared at me. "You really think you can just show up here?" I went on, voice steady but icy. "After you all turned your backs on me when I was at my lowest. When I was struggling. And now you expect me to just welcome you with open arms like, oh sure. Here's all the cash you need. No big deal." My mom pressed her lips together. "That's not how it is. Actually, that's exactly how it is." I lost it. I could feel all that anger, the hurt, the betrayal bubbling up inside me. Ready to explode like a dam breaking. "You have any clue what I've been through? I deserve answers. Do you even give a damn? You know how many nights I lay there in pain, just trying to figure out how to keep going, wondering if I'd even make it? Meanwhile you, all of you, were cozy in your nice houses, not losing a single night's sleep over it." My mom shook her head. "That's not right." "Oh." I shot back, my voice quiet but seething. "What's not right is me almost dying while my wealthy family acted like I was nothing. It's not fair watching the people who were supposed to love me turn away without a second thought." Silence. They had nothing to say back. Because deep down, they knew I was right. But I wasn't finished. "And now," I went on, staring straight through them. "Now you need my help. Now you're in trouble. And suddenly, family means something again?" I gave a bitter laugh. "Well, let me make one thing perfectly clear." I moved closer, dropping my voice just enough so every word landed like a punch. "You weren't there for me when I needed you. So don't expect me to be here for you now." My mom's face twisted into an ugly scowl. "You're being mean." "No," I said flatly. "I'm being fair." She opened her mouth to argue, but I was so done that I turned on my heel, walked back inside, and slammed the door behind me. For the first time in years, I finally felt free. They banged on the door a few more times, yelled my name, called me selfish, cold-hearted. I didn't care. I just stood there, taking deep breaths, feeling the weight of their presence fade away. Then, silence. I checked the camera. They'd left. They never contacted me again after that. Maybe they finally got that I wasn't gonna be their backup plan. Maybe they moved on to mooch off somebody else. Either way, it didn't matter to me. 'Cause I'd already given them my answer. And I'd never ever look back. This just shows how selfishness can tear families apart. The main character was left to figure things out alone, and when they finally made it, their family came crawling back. It's so annoying how people only care when it's convenient, but sticking to their guns was the right call. Sometimes you gotta put yourself first, especially when others have made it clear they only want you for what you can give. Saying no might be the best way to take care of yourself. What do you think? Was cutting them off the right move? Or should they have helped out? Drop your thoughts in the comments.